Welcome to Comfort Having number 2. I'm going to do this video. This video is about racism. Alright, on Top Buzz I get a lot of feedback on racism and shit like that. You know, the other day I watched a movie and they were talking about how Marvel movies changed certain things and you know, they were correct on that. And then, I watched a YouTube clip the other day about the lady saying that the president didn't use kung flu as a racist term, and I read something about it on this Top Buzz thing, and it said that everybody was offended. Me and another fella got into a tiny disagreement about the origins of Native Americans. So, as you guys know, I am of multicultural descent. I am Native American, that being Cherokee Indian. I am black and I am white. Racism affects me on every level because I have been a victim of racism by all of the ethnicities that I am. All right. Now, believe it or not, more so than that, and sadly, I'm going to say the truth. I have been racially assaulted more by verbalage from blacks than whites or Native Americans. Now, on the other hand, I've probably only been racially insulted once or twice by Asians, and counting Native Americans as Asians, then it would probably be maybe 3 or 4 times. With white people, it's probably been maybe 5 times. With black people, it's been more than most of my life. Used to be surprised at how many times the name half breed has come across my fucking lifetime. So the thing with racism is that we tend to look at it from how it affects us directly. And how it affects us directly tends to be the thing that deeply affects us versus like what's going on now with Rashad Brooks and George Floyd. And then I watched a video not too long back that also showed that this happened to a white fella in a hotel. It happened to a white fella outside and they thought that he was sleeping, but he died. The EMT told him he was died. So, it doesn't just happen to blacks. There was a couple of cases where Mexicans were beaten up by cops too. And the thing is that a lot of these things that I read, they have made some poignant points. When it happens to white people, it's basically swept under the rug. When it happens to Mexicans or somebody, it's basically swept under the rug. When it happens to black people, it's in the forefront. Now, I understand that all lives matter, and no matter who you are to me, I'm the only person I know for sure doesn't have the right to be a racist because I'm mixed. And the thing is, when you're mixed, you feel the racism from all sides. I can relate to the white people getting pissed off about this shit, especially about the little Confederate flag thing. I ain't gonna lie, I was a fan of Dukes of Hazzard. I had a toy General Lee, and as far as I can remember, I never seen any black people on the Dukes of Hazzard until Enos left Hazard County and became an LAPD officer. His show was called Enos. It didn't last more than a season, I don't think, but it was still a good show. Now, um, there are a lot of diversity now coming to TV, and this is why the Marvel video is brought up because in Doctor Strange, a lot of people gave Marvel a bunch of flack for giving Tilda Swinton. I probably didn't say her name right. She's a beautiful bald lady. Um, the role of the Ancient One because the Ancient One was supposed to be Asian, and that was a problem for a lot of people. And I will be the first to say I'm not a big fan of Doctor Stephen Strange, but I know that two things in that movie that people complained about were probably on the money. Tilda Swinton being a white lady instead of a bald Asian man, and the guy who was his assistant, because if you know anything about Doctor Strange, not only was the Ancient One an Asian, but his assistant was also an Asian. And the same thing with like in Iron Man when God damn it, I can't think of the guy's name, but he's a good actor, and he's been in the business for a long time. They made him the Mandarin when the Mandarin is clearly a Chinese guy in the comic book. So you kind of gotta You kind of got to feel that a little bit, but at the end, it was still great movies, regardless of the character shakeup, you know. And then you also have to understand that Marvel never said if they were in the 616 or the multiverse or the main continuity or whatever. Because 616 is supposed to be the main continuity, but somewhere in the 80s or 90s, that shit all got changed. And once they started doing a lot of retconning, I kind of stopped reading them. You know, um, when they got rid of Asian Psylocke, I was pretty much done because I liked Psylocke when she was European, but she wasn't a good fighter. She was like the weak link in the chain. But when she became Dazzler's eyes, when Dazzler had the knife stabbed in her forehead by Spiral, I'm probably not saying her name right. It might be Spindle. The six-armed chick from Mojo World that came after Longshot. When the X Men became legends, when Forge killed the X Men. All right, let me give you guys some history on that. So the X Men went to Dallas to save Forge's ass because Forge was no longer an X Man. He was still in love with Storm, but his master, who taught him some of the dark arts, decided, hey, I'm gonna fuck up everybody. And I'm gonna start with you in your building because somehow or another Forge fucked him out of his life or whatever the hell it was that led to that. So the X Men come to Dallas. Let me give you their names. And one person who wasn't an X Man who would later become a foe of the X Men but was a wife of an X Man. Alright, so you have Havoc, you have Dazzler, you have Rogue, you have Psylocke, you have Storm, you have Wolverine, you have Colossus. Alright? Now, you have Madeline Pryor. Those are the 7 people whose souls had to be sacrificed. Now, the wounded X-Men was Nightcrawler and Kitty Pryde, who were back at the mansion watching all this shit unfold on live TV because there was a news reporter inside the building recording how the building that Forge owned and lived in was magically becoming the Savage Land. But it wasn't the same Savage Land as the one in Antarctica at the bottom of the Earth where the X-Men have been and they fought Sauron. However, the Freedom Force went in, and that was Crimson Commando, Mystique, Spiral, the Blob, Silver Starbreeze. I'm missing some people, but there was a fuck ton of them. And so, in that mix, none of them managed to die. Um, Spiral, after stabbing Dazzler in the face with the thing, she got busted up real bad, and whatever happened threw her out of the building, so she flew all the way to the top, out of a window, and she crash landed on the Blob, which took out the Blob. Freedom Force, Crimson Commander, he was messed up. All kinds of other people were just like fracked up. And the X Men were the only people that was gonna save the Earth, because once this stuff got out the mansion, the whole world would have been destroyed. Excuse me. It was a fucking building, like a skyscraper that had a mansion on the top. So they were fighting their way to the top to get to the guy. And the only way when they got there, they couldn't really defeat him. So Forge had to cast a spell, which cost the 7 lives of the people in which I named, which is what made the X-Men legend. So when you seeing the X-Men, you can see them with your eyes, but cameras and shit can pick them up. So that's how the X-Men Live thing started. So that being said, you know, a lot of the shows swapped out ethnicities and swapped out genders, and then when the Celestials movie come out, they're gonna do a lot of that shit. Now, the only reason why the Inhuman show didn't last is because the world wasn't really ready for it. And the only Inhuman they really knew was from Agents of Shield, which was Daisy Johnson, aka Quake. Other than that, they hadn't really toyed with it. And while they were doing that, Marvel and Fox were having a fight, and Disney and Fox were having a fight. So there was like a 3-fall brawl, but Marvel and Disney were owned by Marvel. Well, Disney owned Marvel and the continuity. That's why they were going to make sure that the X-Men stopped selling, because if the X-Men books was canceled, Fox could make movies, but they couldn't really make money, because you know, if you make a movie and they make a comic book and the comic gets such and such thing, well, Fox had to give some of the money back to Marvel for copyrights and shit. But Fox had the movie rights, but not the copyrights. You see, that's a big, long clusterfuck of shit that I'm not going to try to go into. But the fact of the matter is, when they started doing the swap outs, they did the swap outs because people were complaining about representation. And when you see a lot of the movies and you see Thunderbird or Warpath and you see them being played by a Native American, because they need to be played by a Native American. Where Blink, who was not an Asian, who was supposed to be a Caucasian, was played by an Asian twice. Once in a TV show by a totally different Asian that looks familiar with the Asian that played her, who was just in the news not too long ago. Um, but Jamie Chun was Blink on the TV show, and the Japanese girl whose name I can't fucking pronounce was Blink in X Men. God damn it, the one where Wolverine went back to time through time. Whichever one that was. Um, I don't remember the name of it. I liked it. No one else liked it. Um, because Rogue was barely in it, and it was basically all about Kitty Pryde until Rogue had to take over for a few seconds or whatever by taking Kitty's powers. It's when they had Iceman and them all fighting, and all the X-Men were like damn near killed by the end, and everything was up to Wolverine, and he wound up getting put under the water because Mystique didn't kill somebody or something shit like that. And that was pretty much the gist of that. That was like the last one before the second First Class type movie came out. So, when you're doing those things, they made swaps. They started getting all kinds of other complaints from other communities, like the LGBT communities and shit like that. So that kind of fixed stuff up. So when you're watching these movies and you're thinking, okay, well, this guy doesn't look nothing like me, this is what led to stuff like that. And also the fact that whoever directed these movies, when you're trying to make a comic book movie realistic, you kind of dumb down the powers, or you like totally retcon the people and shit like that. So this is how these things happen. But in the end, they were fairly decent movies for me. I'm only speaking for me on this. So we have to understand that rules, regulations, pros, cons, that kind of thing. And when you're doing that, in movies, representation has become more of a thing. I know you guys are thinking, what the hell does this have to do with racism, James? I'm getting back around to that. So, because of the racial cluster fucks that is, this is how the representation shit got started in the first place with these movies and things like that. Now, so I can end this video, I want you all to go to sleep tonight. And I want you to think. I want you to do two things before you go to sleep. Or while you're sleeping, I want you to contemplate this. If I was a different color, I do this all the time. So if I was either all white, how much better or worse would my life be? I think about that before I go to sleep. Sometimes I dream about it. If I was all black, how different would my life be if I could go back and relive all the things I've gone through? Would it have been worse or would it have been better? If I was all Native American, would it have been worse? Would it have been better? And then if you really want to put a twist in it, if you're a man, ask yourself how would it have been if you were a woman? Maybe when you wake up, you'll probably treat women a whole lot better than you do. If you're a woman, ask yourself how would it be if I was all of the things that I just said and I was a man? Try to do that in your head and see what happens. And then comment below and let me know how you feel about that shit. But for racism, the only way for people to truly understand, besides giving empathy, is to experience. If you could, without being like the shit Jimmy Kimmel's going through, if we could make you up to be black for a day and put you in an environment with just white people and they didn't know who you were, how differently would they treat you? Now, Eddie Murphy did this for Saturday Night Live where he made himself up to be white, and he did this in Coming to America and shit like that. But he didn't like really do the whole experiment. But for Saturday Night Live, it was staged. So when he dressed up as a white man and he came in to pay for the paper, and the white dude behind the counter said, "Man, just go ahead and take that paper. I'll just charge the next black guy twice as much when he comes in for that paper." And so Eddie Murphy's like, "Really? Really?" He's like, "Yeah, man, take that paper. Matter of fact, I give you the sandwich for free." Yeah, you have to go see that clip. And in that time, we believed as people of color that that's how white people got along. We just believed it, that shit. And at this time, it's hard to say. So before we go, I'm also going to tell you a tiny story about something that happened to me in Canada. All right. So the face you see, the one that I'm rocking right now that's not burnt or anything. All right, I have a lot of Native American features, and a lot of people don't know that I'm black, and I have to tell them that I'm mixed all the time. It's like, especially when they're like, "Are you Hawaiian?" or something like that. I'm like, "No, I'm not Hawaiian. I am part Cherokee. I am part black. I am part white. I am very proud of my three heritages. Until, and you guys know this, if you've been watching Kung Fu Havoc for as long as it's been on, you've seen my videos where I say I am ashamed to be this, I am ashamed to be that, and I have been ashamed to be all three of my races when someone of my race, or one of the races that I am mixed with, does something fucking stupid. Like Miss Rainbird, and then there was the black guy whose name I can't remember, and there was the white guy whose name I can't remember. But I definitely remember Miss Rainbird because she drove a fucking Winnebago and a dog jumped out. But anyway, when you look at things like this and you say, damn, like say you're a white person, you're watching a Native American go on the warpath while she's driving a Winnebago through the middle of downtown Los Angeles, and you be like, God, this person's insane. And then when you see who it is, you're like, damn, this Native American broad went on the fucking warpath. Kind of sounds racist, right? Because it's a racist statement. It doesn't mean you're a racist, it just means you made a racist statement. Now, as you know, black people are forever saying this one racist statement that has been partially true, that white people are crazy. And the reason we say that, you very may be offended with that, but the fact of the matter is that you get very few black people that are willing to bungee jump, unless you're Will Smith, where you're gonna bungee jump off a fucking helicopter, which is fucking insane. So fuck that shit. So some black people are also crazy, and white people may say the same shit about black people. Oh, black guys are nuts, or black people are always violent towards each other and stuff. And the fact of the matter is, there's some slight truth to everything that I just said. There's some slight truth to Native Americans or Asians losing their shit, to whites losing their shits, to blacks losing their shits. Now, I went to Canada, so I can hurry up in the video. And I guess to some Asians, I look more Asian. So every time I've gone to Canada, and I love this family and I love this store, and they treat me like I'm a fucking Korean. And not only do they treat me like I'm a Korean, they treat me like I'm a rich Korean. And they even gave me discounts. And I love the store. It's right by the Etobicoke Choke Gym. I hope they're still functioning because we haven't been to Canada with the wheelchair basketball team in like maybe 9 years, maybe more. And I missed the Etobicoke Choke Gym. There's a security officer in the Etobicoke Choke Gym who, when we first met, she didn't know that I was part black. She thought I was Hawaiian. And so she had asked me, she's like, so, are you from Hawaii? I said, ma'am, if I was from Hawaii, I love Canada, but there's no way in hell I would come here, because if I was from Hawaii, I would never fucking leave Hawaii. It's like, why? I said, it's Hawaii. I'm not going anywhere if I lived in Hawaii. I would stay in Hawaii. I would never leave Hawaii. I probably would have the worst job in Hawaii, but I would be in fucking Hawaii. She's like, well, you look Hawaiian. And it's like, well, ma'am, I'm part Native American, and I'm part black, and I'm part white. She's like, oh, you're mixed. I just thought you were Hawaiian. I was like, I thank you, but no. Now, that was the security guard lady at the Etobicoke Choke Gym. I cannot remember her name. She's a very beautiful woman. She's a little older than me. Okay, at the time, she was a lot older than me. So, I don't know if she's still doing it. She may have retired by now. But, when I went to the Korean store, they didn't know what the hell I was, but they knew that I was Asian-ish. And I went in the store, and I had American money, because I'm from America. And they rang something up, and it was like $60. I don't know what the fuck I bought, but I bought a bunch of shit at their store. And it was like $60. Plus they had food, so I bought food too. So I bought like a whole bunch of souvenirs, and I bought food. And I gave them 60 American dollars. And they gave me like 50 or 60 Canadian dollars back. And I was like, I think y'all made a mistake. It's like, no. What you gave us in America is 3 times more. I was like, okay. So I came back the next day with the Canadian money and bought more shit. And ever since that day, whenever I have gone to them, have been able to buy shit with Canadian and American money with a discount. And they treated me like I was Korean because they were Korean. And of course, the stereotype of Asians being overly polite, there's some truth to that shit, you know. And I had mad respect for them. I bought like 7 or 8 items, and they gave me a free moose, which like sticks on your pencil. I have it somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I have it, and I never lost it. I bought a white bear, like my stuffed animals. I wish I could find the damn thing. It might be over here somewhere. But I bought a white bear from them, and I got a discount on that. And I was like, okay, but I was more than willing to pay you the full price. I have it. It's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So I didn't worry about it. And every time I've gone to that store, when I tried to pay them full price, it was, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay. It took me a minute to figure out that they did not know that I was not half Korean. You know, I don't think they realized that I'm like black and Native American and white, and they thought I was half Korean. So, because I know a few Korean words, or I knew a few Korean words. Now I don't know shit. But, you know, I knew how to say thank you in Korea. I would say thank you in Korea, and that was that. Now I can't remember how to say thank you in Korea. I learned it while I was learning martial arts from the late Master Jim Ennis. Don't ask, because he learned his martial arts in Japan. Long story. But when we started doing Taekwondo, which Korea is from, well, Taekwondo was from Korea rather, you know, we learned a little Korean while we were doing shit. So that was that. Now, other places in Canada, you know, because I'm mixed, people were confused, which confused me. It's like, yeah, are you from the First Nations? Now I hadn't heard of the First Nations until that. I only knew that Native Americans that lived in Canada were called something, but I didn't know what the hell they were called. I would later find out that they were called the First Nations. So I guess they had strong reserves for Native Americans up there. And I would tell them, no, I'm not from the First Nations unless the First Nation has Cherokee. But the First Nations don't have Cherokee that I know of. At the time, I knew they had Ojibwe and a couple of other people. But I can't give you specifics because I never got to go to the First Nations. I was recording people in wheelchairs playing basketball because that's what I went up there to do. So that being said, you know, the whole thing is that if we all could walk in another race's or another gender's shoes, we wouldn't be racist anymore. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. This is 22 minutes and 49 seconds of your life that you can't get back. So thanks for watching. Like and share. Be seeing ya.